Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Ryan Howard. I am the founder and creator of RGH Press, and I just want to welcome everyone back to the show tonight. I am very excited about our conversation here tonight because I have one of the guests that I never got to bring on Rolling Bones that I always thought would be a great addition to the show, someone that I have a lot of respect and admiration for. He edited both O Night Divine, my first adventure that came out, and the Rakes Codex Volume 1. He has his own internet presence that you can find under Langhorne Creative Group. He's also constantly posting reviews of games, dramatic readings, and interviews with creators over on both YouTube and Rumble. He is the incomparable Stephen Clements. So let's go ahead and bring him on. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Man, I'm stoked to be here. And what an introduction. Man, that was money well spent that I sent you. Just check your Venmo. It's going to be in there. You can ignore the comment about, feet pics, question mark. That'd be fine too, if they did show up. But now I've been a fan of this show and the previous incarnation, Rolling Bones, like you mentioned. And I do recommend to folks that even though Ryan has this big catalog of back episodes, they're still worth listening to. I still listen to them today because he's got a bunch of great minds on there, and what they talk about is usually timeless. So don't sleep on that back catalog. It's some good stuff.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Well, I guess the topic that I wanted to begin with here tonight, and this is kind of the overarching topic, the thing that I really wanted to talk with you about tonight, something that a lot of people forget about when it comes to the creative process. You did an immense service for me when it comes to editing the book. And a lot of people really kind of underrate this aspect of things. Money is stretched very thin when it comes to like generating these products. A lot of people want to run the operation as lean as they possibly can. But what they miss out on when they don't spring for an editor, an actual human editor, I know like Grammarly's fine, but there's something about having another human with the express purpose of go in there and find all the crap and just tell me that it's crap. Tell me what needs to be fixed here and make this thing legible that you miss out on when you don't have an editor. So one, thank you for doing that for me, but also, let's talk about why that's so important.
Hell yeah. So in the creative process, you have some great idea. And you're like, man, this is the best story. This is going to be the best adventure. This is going to be the best poem. This is going to be best whatever, movie, any sort of creative endeavor. And you throw it out there and or you vomit it all out. You get it made and you think this is perfect just how it is. And then someone else sees it.
Yeah.
And maybe you're right. Maybe you're a first time go. Maybe you really are that genius that, yeah, exactly, Jonathan. That's a fine point. That just from God or the Akashic record, whichever one you think of, into your mind and into reality through your means. You created some work of genius. That's probably not anybody that's listening to this. That's probably not anybody that's alive right now. There might be a dozen people in history that worked for. So everybody else, you create and then you refine. You take the feedback other people give you and your own rereadings of it to make the best product that you possibly can. Because whether you're putting something out there for free or whether you're putting something out there for money, you're asking for either someone's time or someone's cash for this thing that you made. You owe it to them to make it worthwhile, because we have a finite amount of life to spend, and you don't want to spend it on crappy products. You don't want to waste your time. Like when I read Descent into Avernus for 5th edition, that's the worst thing I've ever read, and I regret all of that. But there's some really good stuff out there too, and I'm going to toot your horn for the Rakes Codex Volume 1, not just because I edited it, but because it's so rich with ideas and inspiration that it was worth, even if I wasn't creatively involved in it, it would be worth my time to read it, because I can get something out of it.
Yeah.
And so anybody can just toss a illiterate tweet out there, all caps, no punctuation. Is that how you want your product to look? Is that how you want your module to come across? Now, working in those people's favor is the literacy levels across the societies seem to be dropping. Like I've heard that there's a lot of folks these days that can't read books written not in the first person. So not in the I perspective constantly. And that is disturbing. They can't think out. They can't even conceive of thoughts and experiences outside of first person perspective. That's terrifying.
Yeah. I was listening to, I think it was Ed Dutton on the Jay Burden show earlier this week. And Dr. Dutton made that point.
Yeah, I think I might have gotten it from him as well, just from a different podcast. And that's an indication of how you think. And so when it comes to the creation process, skill is important. And we're in the business of wordsmithing, or the hobby of wordsmithing, however you want to look at the RPG industry. And so you want to put your best foot forward. You want to give the best that you've got to the people that are out there, because they have all the options in the world, especially today. There is an unending glut of options that they could be spending their time on. Why should they spend it with yours? Because it's the best, because it's the best you can make it. That's the answer you want to have.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I think about it is, your idea as a writer is like bacon. You start off with something that's like this big, and then you have to at some point render it to something that's about this big and actually edible. And the editor in this case is the fire.
Is that what it feels like to work with me?
Sometimes
being burned alive. Well, go on. I want to hear about this.
Well, and I go back to this example that I hear over, or that I heard in one of my favorite books, which is a book about the history of Marvel Comics called Marvel Comics: The Untold Story. And in it, it talks about a time where it was either Len Wein or Marv Wolfman was the editor-in-chief at Marvel. And they had this thing called the writer-editor, where basically if you were friends with one of the two of them, and they were best friends with each other, so it didn't matter which one was really editor-in-chief, you could basically edit your own stuff. And they would give this out, like Stan Lee technically was a writer-editor. Roy Thomas was a writer-editor. But the thing in the book that gets me is the exact line is something along the lines of, Wolfman was largely considered to be incomprehensible when not edited.
That's terrible.
And for those of you who don't know, Marv Wolfman created Starfire Tim Drake Robin, Black Cat. There's a whole bunch of comic book characters that you only have heard of because of Marv Wolfman, but without an actual editor, a human being reviewing his work, he was regarded as being nigh incomprehensible by his peers.
That's a great example. And so, all right, in that opening
Mm.
salvo rant, I gave you the big metaphysics of why editing's important, and then you got us closer to what I think is a really solid example of, you talk about fire. Well, the say you're making a sword, the raw unfinished sword, that is the product,
Mhm.
and what is the editor? He is the anvil, and he helps beat it into shape, because yeah, you can go around and beat people with that unforged untempered sword and it'll
Mhm.
hurt, but will it be as lethal as you want it to be? Will the
Right.
words in this situation cut as sharply as you were hoping for? Are you going to hit
Mm.
the emotional notes that you had in your mind and you want to impart to others? Well, you can write something, and a foible I found out is, as a writer myself, is I know what I meant to write. I'll put it on the page and then I'll show it to someone else and they'll tell me blah 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 that doesn't come across how I thought it was, and
Mhm.
I've said to them, oh no, wait, I wrote that right here. I'll go and look at the words and no,
Mhm.
I only thought I wrote it there.
Yep.
The words are not on that page. And I'm a guy who's usually attentive to this kind of thing. Everyone needs an editor. Everybody needs a buddy to do a quality check on you to make sure that what you're trying to do is coming across as what you're actually trying to do. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, thanks.
Well, and this kind of speaks to a broader problem, not just with the actual pros, but with even the game content of role playing games. I've talked a lot about this in my articles on the show, but you look at something, and I love the guy. He's a great person. He's talked to me several times, and always very gracious, always very giving of his time. But Professor Dungeon Master's game Deathbringer is not a complete game. There are things that are missing from Deathbringer to make it an actual game that stands on its own. And those missing things, my theory is those missing things are present in his head because he's been playing RPGs for, I think, almost 40 years. I don't know. Dan, I'm sorry if I made you sound older than you are. Forgive me. Um, but these things exist in his mind. They're just from other games. And he either didn't think they were necessary to put in his game or thought they were in there but weren't. And the result is an unfinished product, which
Mm.
works when he does it because he has the missing pieces. But when you, random consumer, especially random consumer who's never played a role playing game, but you enjoy watching Professor Dungeon Master videos, when you pick up Deathbringer and think this is going to give me the Professor DM experience when I run this for my table, and it completely falls apart, it's because you're missing a piece, that piece being Professor Dungeon Master's brain that you don't have.
Yeah. Wow. That is, I haven't checked for, to be clear, I haven't actually read Deathbringer, although I'll watch most of the videos that Professor Dan puts out. I generally like it. Even the stuff that he says that he calls clickbait. No, it's usually interesting stuff. His analysis of industry trends and financial stuff, it's great. And no, I generally like it, except for when he talks about Critical Role. I do not give a crap about Critical Role. I'm not a
Yep.
critter. And I just find it boring watching other people play a role playing game. So I'm not interested. I've tried it before, not for me. But for those who that enjoy it, more power to you. I'm
Mhm.
sorry for that digression.
Yep.
But that is tragic because he's otherwise a very analytical and quality driven guy, I thought.
Yep.
But what is it missing? What does it
So
have and what is it missing?
my good friend Patty's Parlor, Patio Cakes on X, he actually did a full in-depth review of it. and he's played it, he's read it, he went over it. What it ultimately is kind of like a vibe almost. It's vibes based gaming. Um,
Very Morkborg.
yes, that's an excellent example there. What he wanted to do with it was fit all of the rules into the smallest possible package. And this is something that I've been trying to fight against for a while now. This idea that all of your rules have to fit in the smallest, like, you can't have more than 5 pages of rules. I think some people brag about in their games. If your game requires more than 5 pages of rules, then it's got to have more than five. There, there is nothing virtuous inherently about having a small book. Your book needs to be as complicated as it needs to be.
Yes, yes, you need to get the point across, because, like I said, we're wordsmiths. Professor DM's a wordsmith, and whether you're speaking it on a video or writing on a page, we're we're working with words. That's our weapon of choice, our medium.
Yep.
And so you want to make sure that you're coming across the best you can, because no one wants to look like an idiot unless you're trying to do it on purpose.
Mm.
And the points you're getting here, and I agree with Jonathan here in the comments about, and this ties into the point, is that there's 3 C's that I try to bring to my editing and to my writing work. Is I want to make sure the text is clear, it's concise, and it's complete. So clear. Does it say what you want it to say? Does it make sense to anyone, not you? This is an important point we've already touched on,
Yep.
and it sounds like Deathbringer might be missing some of this.
Mhm.
Concise, yeah. You want to make sure that you're getting your point across in as few as words as possible, but you want it to be complete in that it has to be a whole idea. It
Yep.
has to take the time you need to tell the story, to get across the rules that you need to make it all make sense. And concise is not the same as being, what is it, a Scrooge with words, where you wind up being vague just to hit a word count because you don't have the room to get in as much as you can. There is some way to get across whatever idea you've got with fewer words. You just have to be creative in doing it. And that's why a second set of eyes, whether it's just a friend of yours that knows how to read, that paid attention in English class, whether it's an editor you pay, whether it's a fan that likes your games, and you're like, hey, would you mind proofreading this? I'll give you a credit in the comments or in the table of contents, which I might have done that on an upcoming module or two. But get somebody else to check your work, and maybe they have a different way of explaining what it is you're trying to get across, that once they give it to you, you're like, oh, that's obviously the better way to do it. Yeah, let's do that. But this also speaks to ego. I imagine, and this is just imagination, but imagine Professor Dungeon Master might have a bit more ego than, say, me when it comes to stuff, because if you look at our measures of success in the RPG hobby, he's definitely far ahead of me. So who am I to question him? But, and I'm not saying he has this attitude, I'm just saying in a hypothetical sense, he's the stand-in right now for the bad guy I'm about to say. The creator who makes something and then looks at criticism, whether, even well-intentioned criticism, constructive criticism, with the attitude of, how dare you question my genius? They're doing themselves a disservice, and their potential customers as well, their potential consumers. And that's one of the things that I found so refreshing with you, that working with you, is that I would send, when we're working on the Rakes Codex, you'd send me what you had so far. I'd send you back a ream of comments. And well, it's because I'm trying to give you the most detailed look at what you gave me as I can, and in the most constructive way that I can. And I'm always finding ways to improve how I can deliver that. And you would say, okay, I'll think about that. And then you would take it and run. And then when I'd see it again, you might not have taken all my suggestions,
Mhm.
And there were some things that you definitely wanted to keep in because at the end of the day, it is your product. I'm
Yeah.
not telling you what to do. I'm just giving my best advice.
Mhm.
Um, but you didn't get snitty, you didn't get combative, you didn't get snarky. And I do all those things, by the way. I am not perfect because my beloved wife, she's been a de facto editor of mine, and also my target audience when I'm writing fiction because she's got the sensibilities I want. I'll even get defensive with her. But maybe you were cussing me on the other end of the screen since most of the correspondence took place via email.
Mhm.
But I don't think you ever like bit my head off or sent me a tersely worded email. There was only one
Mhm.
thing that you were very clear about not wanting to change, and that's fine. It's
Mhm.
your product. You believed in it, and that's good. So the
Yep.
communication was good, and let me stop ranting for a minute so the host can get involved in the conversation.
Well, yeah, and that's I've been speaking a lot in analogies, but there's something that has happened in my life recently that kind of speaks to what this is. I've recently, like all men of my generation, do at some point, gotten into jujitsu. Uh, so I
Mm.
had class number 2 last night, and class number 1 was okay. You're going to do the drill where you fall on your back, basically taking a bump, like I did when I was in wrestling training. Um, so I was doing that a lot in the
Hold up,
first
hold
class.
up. I want to hear the rest of the story, but you were in wrestling training, like pro wrestling, like in the squared circle.
I trained for 3 months with Mr. Number One George South in Charlotte, North Carolina, to be a professional wrestler because I thought, uh, well, there wasn't a whole lot of thinking involved. I was being a moron after college. Uh, because it
Wow.
turns out you need a lot of athletic ability, and I have almost none.
Wow, wow, bro, that is so cool though, because like growing up, I was a fan of
Yeah.
NWA,
Mhm.
predominantly WCW, but of course WWF for a while.
Mhm.
I
So
started
so
tapering
you
off.
probably got to see my wrestling trainer lose to Ric Flair on several occasions.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. And like it looked cool, but it also looked painful. And so there was
Yes.
somewhere in the back of my mind, like, I'd like to try that, but you actually did it. I both
Yes.
like respect you for it and think you're dumber than I thought. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. No, dude, it's not dumb. It's a brave thing. And I admire that. That's awesome because the
Mhm.
physical courage it took to even step in the ring. Love it, man. That's
Mhm.
fantastic.
Well, and it's one of those things, like, I get to tell people that I have trained as a professional wrestler, and a couple times I've been watching professional wrestling with friends and point at the TV and was like, "Hey, I trained with that guy." But
That's awesome. That's all. Hey, Paladin,
Mhm.
how you doing? But okay,
Mhm.
so sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
Jujitsu.
Yeah. Last night, I was put in a Kimura for the first time, and uh, I was put in a chokehold for like a jujitsu chokehold. Someone has put me in a chokehold in my life before. I'm a man, so
And that's a blood choke, isn't it?
yes.
Yeah, that's not just
Um,
an airway choke. And yes, there's a difference.
yep. It was, I am going to grab the corner of your gi and put my forearm across your throat, tap when you feel discomfort. And so I was just like, but getting put in a chokehold in jujitsu practice, having the first guy was a black belt that did it, which is great for first timers, trained with the best. Uh, but then a purple belt did it as well. That's what the editing process is. You're going to put me in a chokehold so that you know what it feels like, and then we're gonna work on like getting out of it and fighting out of it because what you and me are doing is practice. Like that's dojo time.
Yes.
The real chokehold comes when a customer or potential customer comes at you saying, "This looks like a piece of crap."
Yep.
And if you don't have an answer for that, congratulations, you just got put in a chokehold.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I would much rather anything I write or anything that I'm helping someone write, all the bad things that can possibly be said about it happen before it goes live,
Yeah.
before anybody else sees it. because then you get to walk out there with your manuscript of unchallenged brilliance. And it's a learning process. It's a value add part of the creating process, because along the way, I'm learning things from the people I'm editing for or who are editing me. And there's an interchange of ideas that makes writers better, because iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
Um, and wow, but no, I'm glad that that you're getting involved in a physical combative sport, because I find that kind of activity, whether it's lifting weights or whether it's fighting people with a sword or whatever else, because I used to fence and keep daydreaming about going back to it, is that it's good for you. It's good for your mind. It's good for your body. And while I was a younger man and I would resent the jocks for their confidence and their swagger, once I started doing stuff like that, I got it. I was the one missing out. They weren't the ones missing out.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, get into jujitsu or fencing or lift weights if you can. Just let's get the pump gang going.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. See, free gun show. That's what we're working with.
Nice.
But now you're back to editing. All right. So that is such a good point that you're making about refine. Now, at a certain point, though, when you hit what is good enough, what makes you happy, because you could spend forever in the refining process.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you're starting to just invent problems that weren't there, and you're trying to fix things that didn't need fixing, and then you're stalling.
Yeah.
And then you're making excuses. Because another thing that I admire about your courage is you're willing to face the fire. You're willing to get in the ring, as it were.
Yeah.
And because you have something to show for your effort. You don't just talk about writing. You don't just say, oh, I have this great setting, I have this and that and that. No, you're making it happen. And that's worthy of respect and admiration.
Yeah, and that's ultimately, you do at some point have to stop poking holes in your own work and actually push it out and see how far away from shore are you actually going to get.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that so many people get tripped up on. And this is another example that I had. I used to volunteer with youth group at one of my old churches, and I was talking to one of the kids. I picked up that this kid was a nerd, to use the correct expression there. And so I start talking to him, and he's talking about this fantasy world that he's working on, this fantasy, and that's what it was, a fantasy world. And I said, well, are you planning to like publish anything in it? And he's like, I'm just maybe write stories, but I'm creating this world, and I haven't gotten my magic system down quite yet. And I'm just like, why are you worried about your magic system? Maybe you should write a story about some people. He's like, well, I really want to nail this magic system. No, just write a story about some people and flesh out the world as you go. That will help you more than just, let's make sure that my magic ports 1-to-1 with physics or whatever it is you're working on. There's always going to be a reason to not do it.
Yes.
And you just have to, at some point, stop listening to that voice telling you not to do it, and just push it out. And yes, you are gonna get put in a Kimura. You are gonna get hit in the face. Something, you're going to face some kind of adversity when this idea like hits sees the light of day. As soon as the doors open, it's gonna be blinded by the light, and stumbling around might stumble into somebody. But now you're outside. It's out there, and then you have room to refine even more with the next iteration, because now one, I can complete a project, I can put it out there, and I have people's reactions to that I can now use to improve the next one.
Yeah, and also, I just addressed the issue of nitpicking what you already have, but then you bring up an equally valid and important concern of knowing when to stop
Yeah.
adding, because, and I'm going to use an example from Dungeons and Dragons that I think really makes this case, of overwriting, of overpopulating, of robbing what you've made of the imaginative potential that it had.
Mhm.
If you take, in my opinion, if you take the first edition or AD&D first edition Forgotten Realms box set, it's written lightweight, evocative descriptions. It gives you enough to fire your imagination and something to work with, but it doesn't paint into every single corner and every possibility, and every adventure's already been had. Whereas second edition expanded a lot because there was a lot more lore that advanced in the world. And so eliminated the fog of exploration, eliminated the realm of possibilities of what the setting is in its raw state. And it's only gotten worse since then, to where now when I hear about Forgotten Realms, I don't even want to adventure there because there's nothing I'm going to do that's going to be as cool as Driss did, or one of Ed Greenwood's pet NPCs that in the adventure modules that he's written, the player characters might as well not even be there. You
Yep.
could just tell them the story and, oh, Elminster's really cool. Yeah, screw that guy. Um, and that, yeah, know when to stop. And particularly in a game, in the games hobby, leave room to breathe, leave room
Mhm.
for things to happen that you didn't dictate to somebody. Now, a lot of these writers will put in a line saying, well, the world could be whatever you want it to be. So, change or don't whatever to the material as presented here,
Mhm.
however you want. Well, thanks. I could do that already, and I didn't need to give you money to give me the right to do that.
Mhm.
I could have just made up the whole thing and not paid you $1. Um, and particularly the most recent vampire games have been really awful about that.
Mhm.
Because I listened to this podcast, been going on for years, 25 years of Vampire the Masquerade, and for years and years, fantastic podcast. It's kind of fallen off in recent years, but they're still going. And each episode for the new material, which I consider to be pretty bad, it's like it's amateurish. It's like none of these people know what quality product looks like,
Mhm.
and they have pet peeves against certain in-world clans and
Mhm.
things you can do, and so they write into the game screwing over something you might have liked a
Yep.
lot, and now you just can't have it. And they'll put in screeds about, if you're this type of person, we don't even want you playing our game.
Mhm.
Who are you? I mean, if you're the publisher, do what you want to do, but don't think I'm going to give you one more dollar when I've got far better older books written by far more competent people who didn't
Mhm.
shit all over the stuff that, oh, I'm sorry, can I cuss? Who
Yes.
didn't
Yeah,
crap
you're
all
good.
over the stuff that I did like. Because when you're buying an RPG product, you're wanting to see what this creator has to offer. You're
Yeah.
wanting to see what their world is like and be intrigued by it. So the
Mhm.
cop out line of, well, you could do whatever you want with it, screw you.
Yeah.
Now you haven't done that. So this isn't directed at
Right.
you.
Yeah, and
You're good.
the disclaimer is like, if I could go back in time and do one thing to change this entire hobby, and I know I've beaten this drum before, I would go back to Wisconsin in the 70s. I would walk up to Gygax and I would say, "Look, I understand what you're trying to say with this Rule Zero thing. I understand that you are giving the dungeon master permission to make rulings on the fly and to experiment and expand once they have mastery over the system, to test the limits and to add on to it and just, make the game your own. Other people are going to see this and essentially morph this into, none of these rules that you just paid for matter. So don't put it in there. This is knowledge that people don't need right now. Don't open that can of worms, because that's what, like, that's what the entire discourse around Rule Zero has become. Every book that you buy now, it seems like the first paragraph is, even though you purchased this book, none of this actually matters. So, oh, thank you for slapping me in the face with the fact that I wasted somewhere between $25 to $55, depending on who you are, on this book that apparently doesn't matter. I could just apparently throw this very expensive piece of paper out the window now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely right. And a lot of these games in the modern context, and quite a few in the historical context, they throw that out there, but they didn't take the time to really teach people how to run them and
Right.
why things are the way they are, how these systems interconnect, and
Mhm.
how they really do need to work together. And
Yeah.
it's only with an advanced level of understanding of how it all works and how to run it should you be messing with it. And if you could just make up everything that you wanted on your own, you don't have to pay anybody else to do it, which,
Right.
spoiler, you can,
Yeah.
but that's not, it's not why you buy books. You want to be
Right.
intrigued by the fantasies that others have to share.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm with you on that, man.
Mhm.
Um, and now you brought up how you got put in a blood chokehold, which is a unpleasant thing. I'm trying to remember if I've been in. No, I'm sure that happened to me in the Army when we did combatives and we had to
Yeah.
practice that stuff. So yeah, I feel for you. It's not good because growing up watching wrestling, watching Ric Flair and other folks put folks in the
Yeah.
chokehold. In the neck chokehold, well, that's an airway constriction more than the Kimura is, at least how I experienced it. So that's a different thing. It's not quite a on-off switch.
Yeah.
But so I beat people up through the editing process with all the best intentions. It's
Yes.
because I want it to be the best that it can be. I might not always be right, but
Mhm.
sometimes there's too many spaces before the period, and I don't want you going out there like that. But this was done to me, so I'm
Right.
repeating the vicious cycle
Mhm.
because obviously I paid attention in English class. When when I submitted the proposal for my master's thesis to my review board, there were three professors at the University of Memphis. They waited until Christmas Day. They had it for like a month, but they waited till Christmas Day to send me an email just eviscerating everything I gave them. They ruined my Christmas, like just crapped all over me on like
Mhm.
a high holy day.
Yep.
So that's memorable, but I wound up impressing them when I defended it.
Mhm.
So it did serve a point. It got my attention
Yep.
for sure. And then when I started off with putting out some of my own stuff, and I served as the editor for that because I think I know what I'm doing. Um, but then when I got asked by Lorraine Cantwell to contribute to Memphis Noir by Akashic Books, um, I said, okay, Memphis crime fiction. Hope you like crackheads. And I sent her a story about a crackhead. And she beat the snot out of me in a very polite way. Lorraine Cantwell's a wonderful person. I'm going to interview her one of these days.
Mhm.
She doesn't know why, but I think she's cool. And it was such a value add, though, because I worked with her on that short story collection. And then she asked me back for this one called In the Beginning. It's dark retellings of or dark young adult retellings of Bible stories. And I went with the prophet Daniel confronting the dragon, went with the Lovecraftian angle on it.
Mhm.
And she beat me up there too. Not as much as in the first one, but she still beat me up. And it was a learning process. My
Yep.
writing got so much better and it continues to get better. Like Stephen King will go back and rewrite stuff. And now I don't know that I don't think he's that great of a writer, but he's certainly a great selling writer.
Yes.
So most people disagree with me. Um, and even my wife, she's read all this stuff and she thinks his non-horror stuff is way better than his horror stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but it's always a process and you got to practice to keep getting better and better and better. Will you ever be perfect? Maybe, maybe not. But
Mhm.
the same folks in that jujitsu dojo, even the black belts, they're always learning, aren't they?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. On just a brief aside about Stephen King, because I'm right there with you, and this is all I have to say about Stephen King. This is a man who took the high concept of what if the Knights of the Round Table were gunslingers, and somehow that series of books disappeared so far up its own asshole as to make that high concept boring.
Wow. That is harsh. Oh,
You
man.
have gunslinger knights and you can't even make that cool. What's wrong with you?
That is brutal. The only thing of his that I ever read was Salem's Lot, because I was such a big fan of the movie from the 70s, the TV movie. I
Yeah.
think that's the best it's been done on film. So creepy, so awesome. I mean, James Mason is in it. The cast was fantastic, and the vampire was just so creepy. So I went and I read that book, and that was pretty good. And the wife says, "No, no, Salem's Lot. That one's pretty good." And it didn't involve any kids doing inappropriate things, so even better. I didn't
Yeah.
decide to get in on the turtle bang or whatever it was that happened in it, which also gives me concerns about Stephen King. But I'm
Yeah.
not the first person to have that concern,
Yeah.
nor will I be the last.
Mhm.
Or that the first time that he ever agreed with Donald Trump on anything was involving the need to keep the Epstein files hidden. That's really odd.
Yeah.
You spend like almost a decade just tearing this guy left, right, and center, but suddenly when the allegations around that guy are in danger of being exposed, oh, no, 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 Donald Trump's right on this.
Yeah.
Tell on yourself without telling on yourself.
Yeah.
So what would you say that
Hmm.
you've learned the most in the editing process? Well, actually, let me step back a second. Am I the only editor you've had so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Because this is the only like serious writing project I've ever done.
All right. And what would you say has been your big takeaways from it? Has it made you better? Have I given you Stockholm syndrome?
I think it has. I think it's made me better. And you mentioned earlier, wondering if I was ever cussing you out. I was cussing, but it was not directed at you. It was
Okay.
directed at me.
That's good.
Like I'd get that first round of critiques back, and I'd just be like, "Stupid, you idiot," and just like
Oh, man.
going off on myself. Whoa, shaking the camera here. Um, but just I'd read it and I'd be like, of course that's wrong. Of course I shouldn't be doing that. And there were like, I'm not gonna pretend like, I was never in disagreement with you about certain things, or
Sure.
there were definitely points, and if we pulled the correspondence, you could see where I was like, well, I have that this way because of this, and explaining certain things, but there were so many more times where I was just like, do I even speak this language that I purport to to be my native language that I'm writing in?
I feel
And
you.
it's just one of those things, because when you're writing, you have an image in your head. We all have, everyone who writes has the movie playing in their head. If you are a visual artist, you can take that movie playing in your head, you can put the images down on the paper, and you can show that image to someone. And there is a somewhat direct translation of image to image. When you're writing, you take that image and then you have to turn it into words. And then you give those words to someone else and hope and pray that they see even like a fraction of the movie that was playing in your head, because the movie that was playing in your head was the most brilliant movie ever made.
Yeah.
But it's just this extra level of, I know what I want to see, and I think that these words are conveying that image. And it's that first step of, I don't get it, or I'm not seeing what you're seeing here, or can you explain to this to me? Can you word this better? That's where you realize, oh, I've got to refine this, because in the moment you see the movie and you're furiously transcribing what you're seeing. And you need that extra step of refinement. You need that extra step of, you left yourself open here, you missed this and this. Tighten it up, bring it in, uh, refine this a little bit. And at the end of that is when you have kind of that most direct translation of your vision to the written word. That's what the editorial process helped me get better at, is understanding that the first draft is a rough draft, and it's the subsequent drafting that's going to bring this together. It's not, I didn't completely lay an egg on the first draft. It's not, you suck. It's the idea is here. I can see it through. It's the sword that you pulled out of the lake that's covered in barnacles, but you can see the little pieces of metal still gleaming underneath, and you knock all that grime off, and hey, it's a magic sword.
Yeah, and for the folks watching, the first draft that Ryan sent me, it was good. It was entertaining.
It was okay. It was
Did
fine.
it need? Okay, well, I can have an opinion too.
Yeah.
We can disagree. See, it was entertaining. I got what he was going for, and there are ways it was rough and needed shaping up. Things needed reorganizing to make things clear, to make the information flow in a way that it is most readily understood, and B follows A, and Y follows X, to where, as the reader who doesn't know everything that's going on in Ryan's head about this book, that they can pick it up if they start at the beginning. As they go along, they're going to know everything they need to know as they go along, and there might be some foreshadowing or some teasing of things that Ryan's not going to show them just yet, but he does reward that later on. So they're getting a complete package, and he's economizing his words. He's not wasting their time with self-indulgent prose, which I am really bad about. And it's all making sense. That was the process we undertook, and I think the product came out fantastic. Yeah. But speaking of self-indulgent prose, I'm going to crap on myself here. The first book I put out, Save a Life, it's historical fiction about the Fourth Crusade, and it was so self-indulgent and full of in jokes that only like I would get, and things like that, because it was my first one, and I had that "I'm a genius, how dare you question me" thing. And showed it to my then girlfriend, future wife, and she rightfully pointed out all those things, and she got rid of the worst of my excesses. Some of it's still in there, but that was my first attempt, and I don't, I wouldn't write it the same way again, but it's a learning process. And like Ryan had alluded to, what the first draft is you're getting all the ingredients together. You got, like some people ask me, what's my writing process? Well, my first step is I just vomit everything on the page that I've got in my head, and then I start organizing it. Now, don't play with your vomit. So let's use a different analogy. Say you're going to make bread. Well, first thing you got to do is you got to get all your ingredients together, and then you start working with them. It's that. It's nothing to be afraid of, the editing process. Now, maybe you have a vicious editor who's like sadistic. I haven't had one of those yet. Might have been pretty cool. But we're here to help you succeed and to make the best thing that you can do. So we're not your enemy. And if they're saying nasty stuff to you in an email, like that's overtly nasty, yes, they're being mean. But if they're pointing out, this doesn't look right, this doesn't look right, these aren't moral judgments. We're not saying you're a bad person. We're just saying that by the generally accepted rules of the English language, this doesn't measure up. It doesn't look right. It is wrong, because languages, they operate like computer code does. It either works or it doesn't. And there's a lot of people who try to use bad code, but it doesn't generally work very well, and it leads to a bunch of confusion and unhappy people.
Yep. Yeah, not every editor is going to be like Mort Weisinger from DC Comics, who I think it was Jim Shooter that he looked at one day and said, "Where's your script? I need to use the can."
See, that would be the oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's the toxic one. Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Fortunately, that hasn't come into our lives. If anybody's watching this has had a toxic editor, please drop it in the chat.
Yep.
Or if you've had a good editor, been a good editor, drop that in the chat too. I'm curious what other people's experience has been.
Mhm.
But communication with you, easy, not a problem. And so for folks that are, if you're a creator, if you're an editor, and you enter into the working relationship with somebody, communication, as in anything involving humans, is key.
Mhm.
Use enough to make sure that you get the point across. Like if Ryan had asked me, I don't understand why you said this over here. I don't know to address that point unless he tells me. I'm not a
Right.
mind reader. He's not a mind reader. So if I make some comment on his manuscript and he questions if I know the English language because of the way I wrote it, then I thought I knew what I was telling him,
Mhm.
but maybe I didn't get that across clearly. And I need that kind of feedback, to make sure that I'm serving him the best way possible. But I know this will be a controversial opinion in this day and age. Email's good, texts are good, chats are good, but sometimes you actually do need to talk to somebody with
Yep.
your voice. I had one person I was working with that was taking all my comments the way that I just described, like, this needs fixing, this is unclear, and they thought I was just being the devil, that I was just hating all over them. And I wasn't. I was a fan of the material. I was just trying to help shine it up. And apparently, a lot of tone and context gets lost in emails and in typed communications. But say, had we been talking on the phone, could have heard the inflection, could have heard my enthusiasm for the project, might not have taken it as bad.
Right.
Maybe they would have because that's just how that person is. But maybe they wouldn't have. And so communication is key. Keep it open. And Ryan didn't give me any problems. I felt he understood what I was saying. I understood what he sent back. So what we did worked.
Yep.
And then, of course, we've talked other times too, because like when when I've interviewed him for a couple of the modules that he's written, we got to look behind the curtain there too. And then we text
Yeah.
on Facebook and stuff like that. So we got a fairly good understanding of where each other's coming from and what our perspectives are. That's important.
Yep. Now, I don't remember if this was told on one of your interviews with me. I think we talked about it. I don't know if it made the episode cut. You've mentioned your wife though, and so I just want you to tell the story to my audience of the international crime that you committed in the marriage to your current wife, and I will frame it that way very intentionally and turn it over to you.
Oh, there's
Tell us
reasons.
about how your marriage is illegal.
We made it right by U.S. law, but there's at least 2 or 3 reasons that I suspect if I ever go back to Turkey, I might get arrested. And this would be one of them. And, Turkey, it's a beautiful country, chock full of all kinds of gorgeous things, both from the landscape and the monuments that are built by civilizations that have been there for maybe as long as civilization's been a thing. And Istanbul, which is the abbreviation for Constantinople, has the Church of Hagia Sophia. If you just read the English letters, it's Hagia Sophia, Church of the Holy Wisdom. I think it's the most beautiful place in the world, whether wrought by the angels or whether wrought by the hands of man. And it's about 1,500 years old. It was built by the Emperor Justinian of the Byzantine or Roman Empire. And when he saw the finished product, he said that Solomon, I've outdone thee. And I don't doubt him at all.
Mhm.
So I'd been dating my wife, my now wife, for about 4 years. And when we got together, she had sworn that she didn't want to get married, and we were just going to cohabitate. And I had just gotten divorced when I was getting out of the army. I'm fine with not having the legal threat of the law hanging over my head to ruin my life if some dame gets, bent out of shape over something. So I was fine with that. I loved her and I was going to keep her anyway. Well, at year 4, like some alarm went off in her, and she said why haven't you married me yet? And I was like, well, you said you didn't want to get married. She's like, well, yeah, I want you to want to get married to me. He's like, oh, okay. And I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it in such a way that there's no deniability in her mind that I mean it. And she knew that I was a big Byzantophile. She had read To Save a Life, and she'd heard me talk about emperors and invasions and the damn Turks and the damn Latins, again and again and again. But I wasn't going to make it easy on her. So it was about a year ahead of time, plotting on my part to have silver crowns commissioned, to get a Orthodox priest on site to perform the wedding in the Hagia Sophia, in front of this big gold mosaic of Christ, John the Baptist, and Mary. It's a very famous image. It's not hard to find online. That's beautiful. And that way, Mary could be her maid of honor. John the Baptist be my best man, and symbolically, we'd be wedded by Christ, because Christ is King. And she didn't know that this was happening. She didn't know that I was talking behind her back to key people in our lives to let them know what I was doing and to coordinate with them. And then I get us set up for a trip to go to Istanbul. And she was thinking that maybe I'll propose while we're there. Oh no! Oh no! We get there. I've made confirmation with my man who's going to be officiating, who we'll come back to him to make sure that he's in the Hagia Sophia waiting to do what he's going to do. And we finally get to the Hagia Sophia on the next to the coronation stone where the Roman emperors were crowned for like 900 years or something like that. I proposed to her, and she accepted. And this is on the ground floor. And she said, I asked her, so what do you think you'll actually go through with it? I mean, I proposed, but you think when we get to the time to get married, you'll actually live up to it? And she's like, I'll think about it, in that coy way. And obviously she wanted to. I might need some time, but I knew she had about 10 minutes to figure it out, because when we went upstairs to the upper gallery and got to that mosaic of Christ and the other two, she got this look on her face and said, why is your friend Cody here? Because she knew the guy through Facebook. I talked about him. He's a fellow Byzantophile. And I told her, well, that's because we're about to get married right here in the Hagia Sophia. Now, the place was open. There's tourists all over the place. I had sent a message to the museum authority asking, can I rent part of the Hagia Sophia to do a wedding in? Now, this place is a massive international draw. No doubt they would have come back with some stupid number. But I'd been fine before hours, after hours, whatever. I was accommodating, but they just never answered me at all. Like, I was willing to give them 10 grand to let me do it, but they didn't answer at all. And well, the Hagia Sophia, up until well after we did this, had been a hot spot, a flashpoint for international relations. Like, wars have been fought over it. And so it was illegal to have any religious ceremonies in there. Well, I wasn't going to let that stop me. I'm predominantly of Scottish descent. We have a problem with people telling us what to do.
Yep.
And so we got married right there. Cody did a very, very quick ceremony. And apparently this delighted many of the tourists there because they were taking pictures and giggling. And then I said, okay, now that it's done, we need to go before anybody tells the security guard, before anybody figures it out. And we beat cheeks, got out of there. That was like my third time being in there. Her, I think, second time being in the Hagia Sophia. So, we got a chance to see it, and we had spent plenty of time looking around before the ceremony. But we got out of there, and so yeah, technically it's not a legal marriage at that point, but we got back to Nashville, where I think you and I lived at different points in time.
Yes.
And I got a couple of my friends from the city council to sign off on it, so it became legal. We officially got married in an Ethiopian restaurant in south of Nashville by former council member Rod Williams. Although the people at the clerk's office misread it and listed him as Red Williams, which is a very Tennessee thing.
Yeah.
We got married by Red Williams. Woo-hoo!
Handsome and Red Williams.
But yeah, that's how that happened. And Cody, I gotta wonder what was going through his head, because I just known him on Facebook. We were fellow Byzantophiles. He had read my book and left a generous review. And I knew he had gone to Holy Trinity College, or Trinity College up around Boston, to become an Orthodox priest. And he wasn't quite finished yet, but that was good enough for me. And and I messaged him out of the blue, like, hey, would you mind officiating a wedding ceremony? Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, when's that? In Istanbul, in the Hagia Sophia. Excuse me, is what he said. And I'll fly you there. I'm broke, and you're willing to fly me to my favorite place in the world I've always wanted to go to, but could never afford to? Go on, and I'll put you up in a hostel. Okay. So I hooked this boy up, and then he performed the ceremony. Oh, and the crowns I mentioned earlier. So while me and the wife were in Istanbul, we were staying in a former Ottoman mansion near the Hagia Sophia. And I had Cody perform the coronation ceremony from, I believe it's Constantine Porphyrogenitus's manual on how to do court ritual. So technically, we've been coronated emperor and empress of the Roman Empire. Just putting it out there. So in case the Turks ever decide they need another, Roman emperor, by technicality, I got something for you,
Yep.
I mean, is it the strongest claim? No, but it's stronger than people who don't have that claim. Okay. Yep. Maybe a couple Lascarids or Paleologi are out there, but I doubt any Komneni are going to come forth. I'm definitely no Julii. I'm fine. I'm in the running if that ever happens.
Yep.
Yeah. So I like to do dumb stuff because it's entertaining. And if I was a little less Christian, I'd be a megalomaniac for sure. Just would not even try to restrain this ego. And I'm screamingly Leo. And now a lot of folks knock on horoscopes, but I am screamingly Leo. I love myself, and I wish other people loved themselves near as much as I love me. Because everybody would be better off if they did, but they don't. And that's just something I got to accept. So that's the long-winded version of the story of one of the 3 reasons I'd probably get arrested if I went back to Turkey.
And I insisted that you tell that story because it is, it's my favorite wedding story that I've ever heard. And it is my second favorite example of intrigue happening in the Hagia Sophia. Unfortunately, the first is a fictional example because it's from the movie From Russia with Love.
Oh, well, I mean, that's good to be in that company. Oh, yeah. I do have a happy addendum to that story of not me personally, but I have inspired someone. Years ago, like right after it happened, basically, I was in this Byzantine fanboy group on Facebook, and I joined it. I had no idea I was by far the oldest person in there, and the rest of them were like 19-year-old Euro boys that later would pioneer the frog memes and laughable racism. I had no idea that's what I was getting into, but I recognized I'm older than them. They're basically good lads. I'm going to stick in here and try to be a positive influence, and they seem to think well of me. And then when I was able to drop that story on them, like the whole forum went quiet, and they're like, "You did what?" And like to this day, those folks will throw at me like, "Oh yeah, I'll never forget that. Did you know this guy did that?" Well, one of them the former admin of it. So in the off chance that Blue is watching this, what's up, Blue? He's fortunate enough. He's a Serb living in the Netherlands, and he got himself a girlfriend who's been great. They've been getting along great. She's a Turk, by the way. So that I don't know how that's working, but it's good. And they've been to Istanbul many times at this point in their relationship. And the last time they went, he proposed to her in the Hagia Sophia. So I was like, yeah, that's my boy Blue. That's right. We're taking it back one religious ceremony at a time. I don't care if it's a mosque now. That's a Christian in there, and we're making it happen. So yeah, again, Christ is King. Love seeing it. So all the unwed boys out there that get you a girl, go to the Hagia Sophia and propose at the very minimum, or get married in there. If you get persecuted for Christ, and that's exactly what the job entails.
A Serb marrying a Turk.
Yeah. Oh, they're adorable together. But I'm very happy that my boy, he didn't just say, I like what you did. That's so cool. I'm not cool enough to do that myself. No, he was inspired by it, and then he did it himself. That is fantastic. So role models matter, because role models give you an idea of what you should even be trying to do with your life. And he loved that, and he went for it. Good on him. So very, very happy to hear about that.
Somewhere Vlad Dracul is shaking his head at a Serb marrying a Turk. You're not supposed to do that.
Well, we got to take it back one way or another. And, they're trying the demographic birth bomb approach to the West. Well, we'll just marry their women until now. She's probably a Christian Turk, because this boy is like deep on the, I think he's in the Catholics these days, but he is all about the Christianity. But you know what? Bring them back one at a time. You know, witness through love if you got to. Whatever, by hook or by crook, salvation. As long as you get there, that's what matters.
Now, on a slightly different subject, in addition to working together on the Rick's Codex, we've also been able to game together. We've been in some pretty fun games. Movies Till Dawn with Luau Lu. That was hilarious.
Yeah, he still feels bad about what happened to you in Frankenstein versus Goshzilla. He kept mentioning it during this year's game.
Lou, if you're watching, it's all good. I enjoyed myself regardless.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Jersey Shore Cthulhu was also a ton of fun. Oh man, that game. Tom Knaus ran that at North Texas, and
he's discontinuing it. He's moving on. And I understand, but still hit me a little bit in the feels that's gone. But Tom, if you're listening, publish those modules, make them available somehow so someone can pick up the torch and we can, yes, Queen on the beach, acting up in a future Call of Cthulhu Jersey game.
The one that we played in, when he started, I wasn't sure where this was going, but it turned out to be apparently the perfect module for me. It was a destination wedding in Jamaica.
Oh yeah.
And we were all the bridesmaids, and somehow through this bass guitar that was left on our private flight from New Jersey to Jamaica, we had summoned, I believe the entity's name was Magumbo, a Baron Samedi type demon. And it turned out that all of this was very much tied into Johnny Cash. And this is where it turned into the perfect module for me, because that's where you guys found out just how much I know about Johnny Cash.
I mean, that's any excuse to involve Johnny Cash is a good excuse in my opinion. And if you're going to have a hobby knowledge of the historical figure, I don't know that you could pick much better. I don't know that you can. So it's just a sign of your good taste.
Thank you. But Another game that I wanted to talk about, and we can spend a good chunk of this show talking about it. Um, we have played this game on guard together. Uh,
I'm
for
gone.
those of you who don't know about this game, one, Steven has a video about it, so go watch it. But this is a like definitional hidden gem RPG. This was originally published. Was this in the 70s or was this in the early
I
90s?
think it was like 75.
1975. That's right.
Yeah,
I
it
did
is
learn.
one of the oldest role playing games out there.
Mhm. But this puts you in the role of a French noble during the rough time of Alexandre Dumas's writing. Uh, it, like truly, it is a fantastic game, a fantastic simulation of being a worthless French noble who has nothing to do all day but drink and duel and occasionally go fight in wars.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned a few times, the vampire game. So I've got a substantial background in that game. I'm going to be starting a new one, thinking in like a week or two, and it's a very social game. And so when I found out about On Guard through Steve Winter was running it at GaryCon 2019, I saw that you've got what Ryan just said, the game set in Three Musketeers era, Paris, France. So Court of the Sun King, all glamorous, this and that. And your goal is to social climb in that society by being seen in the right clubs, by courting the highest class mistresses, by buying your rank corruptly in the most prestigious military units while doing as little work as possible. And I was like, this glory hounding, self aggrandizing BS sounds amazing. And there are levels as you, because most games have a level, and this one is social level. The lower it is, the more of a peasant you are. The higher it is, the closer to the glory of the king. And there's levels where, in order to break through, to get enough status points to move up, you're going to spend the whole month drinking and partying at the highest class clubs you can get into, gambling and just showboating as much as possible. And I'm like, where has this game been my whole life? And it is addicting, my friend.
Mhm.
That's why me and my friend Pat, who I met while I lived in New Hampshire, and we've stayed in touch. Uh, we played it after Gary Con. I got the rules, brought it home, and we played it. And, oh man, we fell in love with this thing and come up with rules expansions, new settings, this and that. He's working on kind of a Boot Hill inspired adaptation called Draw, which we play tested it twice, and it is fantastic and probably way more functional than Boot Hill. Because I've read some Boot Hill, and I got questions.
Mhm.
But it's so much fun. And if you're listening and this is at all interesting to you, yeah, you might want to check out my RPG review of On Guard, where I go into it in depth. And through seeing that video, I've had people message me on YouTube like, hey, you mentioned that you run a game once a month. Can I get in on it? And I say yes. And those people have come and they have had a good time. So you're invited as well. Anybody that's listening.
Yep,
I mean, Ryan's been along and he had a good time.
I did.
And I remember that one of the ways that On Guard came up between us is when you're developing your faction system in the Rakes Codex, I suggested you could give a little more structure to like the incentives and the ranks players can have you checked out this book? And you did. And
Mhm.
then you went to Flashing Blades as well.
Yep.
So tell me how you've interacted with it.
Yeah. So when I was looking at Nighthaven, I was very much thinking about the gangs. That's where I started. Was like, this is kind of my fantasy noir. This is going to be all about the gangs. But it occurred to me, we have this guard element, and there is prestige to be found in being a part of the guard, being a part of a military unit, and there's also things outside of just exploring dungeons or fighting monsters that your character might be expected to do, and complications can arise from out of that, and that's what On Guard really helped me flesh out was, what does it mean to be a part of a prestigious military unit? And at the time, I was also reading Three Musketeers, and so I was putting together, okay, I might not have initially had this in mind for Nighthaven, but this really is kind of a Three Musketeers, Court of the Sun King type of setting with a heavy dose of anachronism. But it really helped me kind of unlock some things about Nighthaven, specifically when it comes to the way that factions work. And Flashing Blades, the other one that you mentioned, this was brought up as a solution to the somewhat underwhelming, or maybe the better term is overly complicated dueling in On Guard. The
Yes.
actual sword duels in On Guard are not the strongest suit of the game, but this game does it very well. And
Good.
this game, there will be in future editions of the Rix Codex, there will be dueling mechanics very heavily inspired by Flashing Blades that I'm bringing in, because I like the idea of kind of the zoom in, zoom out style of combat where similar mechanics can be applied in different ways when you get down to one on one, or when you move back to mass combat. And that's something that my friend Alchemic Raker has talked a lot about with me on past shows. Uh, but yeah, I mean, both of these games have been very instrumental in helping me unlock certain things, because I am playing in a time period that is woefully underexplored by role playing games. I think there's a lot of intrigue and adventure and fun to be found in the early Black Powder era. Not a lot of games explore that.
You're right. Those two, and like Steve Winter's supplement, A Mighty Fortress for AD&D Second Edition,
Mhm.
those are about the only ones I can name off the top of my head. But I remember hearing you having mentioned that you were going to focus on dueling as a detailed aspect of a future game you want to work on. So okay, well, glad that's been helpful to you. I've got all the Flashing Blades supplements and the core rulebook because fortunately they're undiscovered, and so they're pretty readily available for
Mhm.
cheap out there. But I haven't read them yet, and my impression is it fixes a lot of the problems that On Guard had, though.
Yep.
Because yes, the On Guard dueling system, it is an awful guessing game. There's not really a game mechanic; it's just a guessing game. That's if you're not good at it, if you're not good at paper rock scissors, you're going to get your butt handed to you every time in this. And I like the randomization that dice provide because just because I suck doesn't mean my character sucks. I say that because one of my On Guard friends, Archie, kept whipping me using the rules as written. And
Mhm.
I was like, man, Steve Winter was so right in coming up with this alternate method. But the Flashing Blades, when I did play that with Jerry Stratton at North Texas 2024, I think, I noticed that the rules were much better. So I'm going to be looking into that. And speaking of books that could use some editing, the On Guard rule book, oh my God, that thing is a mess.
Yep.
I've been playing with it for years, and I'm still finding like some tucked away detail that's actually kind of important, but I never noticed.
Mhm.
And that's not a good sign.
Yep.
And then there's a lot of things it just doesn't answer at all. And then when my friend Archie got to play with the guy who owns the rights to it now, he was like, I don't know. But the book will be hyper specific in certain areas,
Mhm.
and when it comes to time measurement. But then in this other very important area, it just doesn't mention it at all. So you have to make up, well, how does time work in this context? And so this is an example of where it was clear in one spot and concise, but completely ignored being clear and concise elsewhere. Uh, if you have a rule system, people need to know how it operates. And if the way it operates is, well, here you should just make something up, that's fine. That's
Mhm.
fine. Just let me know what part what these rules are really designed to address, and then the things that it's not designed to address, I can fill in the blanks. That's okay.
Yep.
But man, I would love to re-edit the On Guard book.
Mhm.
Um, but I got to check out the Flash and Blaze. Definitely got to do that.
But one of the things I really like about On Guard, um, it's one of the few times where I've seen abstracted mass combat work really well. Uh,
Yeah,
and that's kind of one of the cool little surprises that On Guard pulls on you. It's not a miniatures war game. I could see someone uh, kind of grafting it into a miniatures war game of that era, but the way that it handles like warfare with the random rolls and various things that you can get involved in, you can come out being like a massive hero of a battle that was very horribly lost by the
yeah.
French army.
My
um
God.
the Prussians absolutely decimated us, but in doing so you became quite the hero.
Yeah, and you got battlefield promotions because all the officers above you got murdered. You were able to take a bunch of loot home with you because they didn't need it anymore. And you got all these stories in the paper about you. The town criers are singing your name of your heroism at the
Mhm.
Battle of, Teutoburg Forest or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting in that it both covers what happened to the army in very simple roles. And that's one of the strong points about On Guard is there's no saving throws. The dice and the charts say what happens, and you eat it or you win, or maybe you just eke by. But it's merciless in that regard. But it tells you what happened to the army, which impacts but doesn't necessarily determine your fate. Like you said, you might die with the army if it goes bad, or you might be the bright shining point in the catastrophe. And it's very simple, but I've never seen grown men do basic math and social scheduling so intensely as when they're playing On Guard.
Mhm.
Um, just these little modifiers, always checking the charts like, oh, and I've got a +1 for this. I've got it. And it doesn't matter how good you are at it. When those dice say it's you took a cannonball to the face, time for a new character. You got to
Yep.
move on. If anybody listening to this either has the my precious character syndrome, where you can't stand to lose one player character, or else it ruins you, or you know somebody who is like that, run a couple sessions of On Guard for them. They'll know not to get too attached to characters real quick.
Yep.
Death comes at you fast when you're swashbuckling and engaged in high adventure. You
Yep.
know. Um, Speaking of different ways of presenting RPG material, I think you've got far more experience than me in reading like the BX style books. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, for the most
Okay.
part.
And my understanding is that they are very big on their bullet points. Um, Whereas I come from the old school TSR world of lots of paragraphs and text
Mhm.
describing what's going on, and then you get your box text and this and that. Um, am I right about the BX and some of the more the newer systems that they try to boil it down to as few words as possible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, so you have inadvertently stumbled into one of the things that I consistently complain about when it comes to the OSR. And I know several of you out there are longtime friends of mine. I love you. I'm not talking about you. Those of you out there who I'm friends with, you know who you are. Um, but there are so many games that take BX. BX comes out of a simplified, watered down version of OD&D. But so many of these retro clones are like a simplification of the simplification. So all of the like mechanical rough edges get sanded off. However, the rough edges are what like catch.
True.
And unfortunately, so many of these games just don't catch. Even good ones, even old school essentials, which I've been a fan of, is so slick and so smooth in its presentation, it loses a lot of the flavor. It's very much kind of distilled essence of BX, and there's not much to it that like gives you a kind of unique flavor. It's the polar opposite of something like Hyperborea, where Talanian has done a fantastic job of giving his game something that makes it unique. It's a very specific game. If you want to play that kind of game, Hyperborea is where you want to go for it. It doesn't work so well if you take those rules and try to port it into another setting, but
Mm.
it's got a flavor. It tastes like something.
Oh
So
yeah.
many of these other games just don't. And that's my overarching problem with this movement is it's become so beholden to copies of copies of copies. And when you go back and actually examine those older rules, they're not well organized. True. There's a lot of what people will like to call the high Gygaxian, where Gygax kind of uh, goes off on tangents about random topics.
He'll do that. And he's in clarity to most readers, he is terrible at.
Right.
If you can grasp his style, he's as clear as night and day.
Yeah.
But you want to consider your audience and what's their experience.
Yep.
Are you going to aim for those people, or do you want most people to be able to understand what you're saying? Okay, sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
And ultimately the mechanics all make sense and they're all there and it's a complete game. The people who say that D&D was released broken have not actually read D&D. Most of the time it's, they forgot that the book says you're supposed to use chainmail with this. And they're like, well, I don't know how to do combat. You're supposed to read chainmail too. It's right there in the front of the book. But it's all there. It's all complete. What these guys are doing is taking the version of the game that they imparted when they were 12, reading the book for the first time. They never read the book since. This is what made it through the filter of their 12-year-old mind, and that's how they played the game for 40 years. And when you tell them to go back and read the book, as so many friends of mine have, they get defensive because, hey, I've been doing this, for longer than you've been alive, sonny boy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I've read the book. When was the last time you read the book? What in the well, that wouldn't be. I was about to say, in the words of Hank Hill, a Texan was in the White House, and it wasn't George Herbert Walker Bush. But
Wow.
But like
No, that almost lines up, doesn't it? Yeah. Oh. So you were the right person to ask about this because you have spent a lot of time thinking about it and you've got an informed opinion. Because I was curious what the experience is like for the person reading it. Is it better? Is it worse? Now everything has a trade-off. So some things will be better at some things and worse at other things. That's just whatever style you pick. That's going to happen. It's you're going to get some uneven results there. But I've been working on modules, not just yours, other people's, and then I'm writing some of my own for the inner city game. And I'm thinking, okay, what's the best way to present the material? Am I missing out on good ideas that have come along since I started reading, Alan Hammock when I was a little kid? And Alan did great work. It holds up today. At least the modules that I've read. Now, the ones I haven't, I can't speak to, but that's useful feedback of how much do I need to simplify things versus how much can I give myself the freedom to relax and tell the story, use a paragraph, and do things like this. Because it sounds like, or I don't want my adventure to read like a shopping list of just bullet point things that doesn't have any soul to it. But I also want people who are running it to read the text and understand what we're going for, and be able to find the details they need to actually run it at the table in a timely manner.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out what's the best balance of that, of simplicity versus flavor.
I try to give those explanations in clear words, but surround them with flavor so that there's not so much of a divide between, okay, this is the lore, skip over this, these are the bullet points that I actually need to do this thing. I mix them together because it's a more pleasant reading experience. However, as you noticed through editing my work, sometimes it can be a little dense and you have to, prune it back a little bit to make sure that it's still, clearly visible.
Right.
It's almost like let me see if I can get this analogy right because it's kind of coming together in my head.
Yeah, it's just you, me, and all these
Yeah.
people on the internet forever. So
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
no pressure.
So it's like going to a very highly themed theme park, similar like Universal Studios in Orlando. It's cool to go there knowing that it's an amusement park, knowing that there are mechanisms behind all these facades that are, making these things happen, but you don't see them. All you see is the result. That's the way that I like to write my games. You hide the seams, you hide the plumbing and the pipes. Anything that's not period shouldn't be visible. Um, Kind of that Walt Disney principle. Everyone should be able to understand, what's going on there, but in the moment they're lost in the illusion that, you know because it's 105 degrees outside that you're in Orlando, Florida. You're not in uh England, in Hogsmeade, whatever that would be in the real world. The weather is telling you that you were very much in Florida, but while you're looking around, you picture yourself in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. And that's the magic of places like this, is that ability to allow you to suspend your disbelief. And in gaming, I think that principle is very applicable because you can get lost in the coolness of the setting but still have the information there to, you know you're running a game. Everyone at the table is there to play in a game. It's present, but it's not so in your face that this is the mechanical part. Here is how this illusion is running. We have not hidden any of the pipes or wires or gears from you. You can see everything running, and then you see the thing in front. No, that's all hidden behind a thin veneer of the flavor text. That's how I like to present it personally, and I think it makes for a more interesting read.
You just made me think of another way of putting why focus on your wordsmithing ability,
Yeah,
why create and edit with an eye towards making it the slickest product that you can, that immerses people in the story you're trying to tell in the best way possible. And you were talking about all the, the scaffolding, the wiring, this and that. Do you want your audience, because you're writing for an audience. You want somebody out there to read this thing. If you just want to write it for yourself, you just write it for yourself, put it in your drawer, you're good to go. And it can be exactly what you want. But if you want other people to appreciate it, do you want them to appreciate the Universal Studios experience that Ryan just described? Or do you want to present them with the Glasgow, Scotland, Willy Wonka experience? Because yes, there's Oompa Loompas. Yes, there's parts of the set that's supposed to be the set and a mysterious
Mhm.
like death figure for some reason. And there's a mad candy lab. So all the elements are there, but it's presented terribly. Go for the Universal Studios approach. Don't make people wonder if they're about to get jumped by a heroin addict in Glasgow.
Mhm.
That do put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
So
Or
thanks for inspiring that.
and don't make them feel like they're reading a technical manual either.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
if like it's a very simple technical, don't make them feel like they're reading IKEA furniture instructions.
yeah. And man, you give me a couple more points to talk about here, and that what is the reader's experience? What is the audience experience with this? And I wonder with the stripped down approach to presenting RPG material and modules, um, if that's robbing a lot of enjoyment from the people who are reading it, because I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts about this RPG design,
Mhm.
and two voices that stick out to me right now, is articulating the point I'm about to give, is Lou and Jeff Jones, both independent publishers. And they brought up that most of the modules that people buy, they're never going to run. So they use that to inform their design philosophy of making this thing an enjoyable read on its own. Yes,
Mhm.
you can run it, and they hope that you should. And they generally put out good stuff. You should run their stuff, their adventures. But chances are it's going to go on your shelf. You might read it once, maybe twice if you really like it, but that's as far as it's going to go. So you want it to be an enjoyable read. Um, do these more stripped down versions, are they as enjoyable to read as a text that takes more time to wrap you into the setting?
I mean, I don't see how they could be. Um,
Yeah. Man, how could they?
and the adventure module is really kind of a lost art in my opinion. I know people who do it well, but if you think about what like a modern D&D module is, like, we
Uh,
all know that those are garbage.
oh my God. Yeah.
A lot of times they're just art books, or they're setting books, but they don't give you key information that you would want. I'm thinking very specifically of something like Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which was kind of my moment of realizing uh WotC has officially lost it. When I read that book,
I'm
I was
out.
just like,
Yeah.
no, it's over. It's done. Um, but yeah, I think going too far in either extreme, because there's a certain point at which if you say, okay, no one's ever going to run this, so let me make it enjoyable to read. At that point, should you not, I don't know, write a graphic novel or a short story book or something like that? And then on the other hand, I want to strip all that out and just give people the essential game information. Now you have something with no art, no soul. I think if you have something, and it's easy to say, it's not easy to do. I don't even know that I do this well. If you have something in the middle that ties everything together and you really capture people's imaginations with your words, should that not inspire them to immediately take it to the table? And I think both, just kind of throwing up your hands and going, no one's ever going to run this. They're going to read it once, so let's make as fun a ride as possible. You're kind of admitting defeat there. The same way that you're admitting defeat if you're like, I'm not going to even try to make this interesting. Here's a list of rooms and a list of monsters and a list of loot for you. Uh, you need to inspire people to the table because there's a lot of things competing for attention out there. So I think if you really put that effort in and get people to go, this world is cool. I want to be in it right now. It's going to help you get over that hump of I'm never going to play this. It's going to sit on my shelf forever. So there's something to strive for in there, at least.
And I'll say it again that I think that your Rakes Codex Volume 1 did a good job of not only presenting a setting, but a lot of books and box sets, they'll present a setting and then, yeah, I read it and I'm done with it. But you also put in that module at the end that tied all of the key elements together, operationalized them, and really showed me oh, this is how this setting comes alive right
Mhm.
here. And you did it in not that many pages. And I was hooked into the action of the setting because of the way you made it all. You made the equation, and it all worked. Um, so for folks who are trying to make their settings, make their worlds, I think Ryan would be a good example to follow. Take a small footprint of the greater setting you're trying to think of, and then show people why it would be a fun place to adventure.
Mhm.
Give them that taste. And Ryan actually had more adventure material written into the Rakes Codex, like ideas in the text. And I told him, no, might want to hold off on that. Give people room to explore that on their own, but also some gold nugget ideas to write future adventures with.
Mhm.
Don't blow your whole shot right here.
Yeah.
Um, because what you already had was good. We did not need more. It was a complete product in and of itself. And I didn't want some of those other ideas, which were really cool, to distract people from how cool the adventure that you had fully fleshed out was. Keep them focused.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and it really everything about writing for RPGs, and I feel weird saying this because a friend of mine once very rightly pointed out that role playing games a lot of times is kind of the drain catch of creativity. There are a lot of failed other creators that find their way into role playing. Failed comic guys, failed fantasy authors find their way in here because they can, take their half finished piece and present it as something complete. Uh, because a lot of people treat adventure modules and games like fantasy novels where just like chunks have been cut out of them. And so it's like, here's my cool beginning and here's my cool climax, and then I don't have to write anything in the middle. You all decide what goes in the middle, just as long as you get to my cool climax that I wrote here at the end.
See your
But
feed module like that. Yeah.
if you do approach this art, and it is an art, with sincerity, you'll find it's actually very difficult to craft something that gives the players enough room to truly have agency. And that ultimately that's what it comes down to. You don't like there's so many railroad modules out there where you're on the dark ride, we're going to take you into the next room and you're going to see the scene and then take you into the next room and the next room.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's something I struggle with, repeatedly. As I'm writing my modules, I think, am I building a railroad? Am I laying tracks here? Um, and so it just becomes a difficult process of how much can I take out of here? How much can I subtract? I think of, have you ever seen the show The Bear?
I've heard of it. Well, the wife's watched a lot of it, so I'm aware of it.
It's a pretty good show, but in one of the episodes, there's this absolute asshole chef played by Joel McHale. He's one of those guys who just like screams at all of his underlings and belittles them. But he writes the word subtraction on a post-it note and sticks it next to the main character's workstation. And that's honestly what you have to think about when it comes to RPG modules. You you have to kind of go minimal with how hands-on you are with the events going on. You got to give room for exploration, room for agency, room for things to happen so that at the end the choices that they made along the way actually mattered. And it's not easy. It's very easy for me to say, it's not so easy to write.
No, you're right. And some of the more linear, well, absolute railroad modules that I've read, because I've read the ones you're talking about where the entire adventure is you have to go in this room, and in this room there's only one answer for you to get out of this room. And
Mhm.
if you don't get that right, you don't get to leave the room. and then the next room, just wash, rinse, repeat. And there might be interesting flavor text and encounters in these places, but it's railroad. It is an amusement park ride. You're not getting off the ride no matter what.
Mhm.
That can be interesting, but it's not the most interesting thing you can do with it. And I'm confident there had to have been, and still are, lots of folks who have a story, a book they want to tell, and then they slap a module on it, put it out there, and then it's full of directions to the guy running it of this has to happen. If
Yep.
the players don't do this, beat them with this stick until they do. How
Yep.
fun is that? So you're trying to make an interesting story, but operationalize it to where the pieces can move with the players because they're kind of an important part of this,
Yep.
role playing game. The people need to play the thing, and they have all kinds of directions they might want to go with it.
Mhm.
And so that's why we like the modules that I'm working on is trying to make sure that I don't put cool stuff in the story in the background off screen where the players can't see or interact with it.
Yep.
No, I want it all on screen where the players can have some meaningful role with it. And yes, there is an objective to the module, because if you have a module without an objective, what do you really got? You got a setting book.
Yep.
But I want multiple ways for them to get there. And I want what they do when they do get there to be able for them to be able to vary what the
Mhm.
final outcome is. And I want the decisions they made along the way to help impact what happens when they get there. Now, there's some types of stories that you might not be able to tell with that method,
Yep.
but it's a game.
Yeah.
Game. It needs to be playable.
Yep.
So yeah, you and me, we're on the same page. And
Mhm.
again, I think that you did it right because Corpse Walk stuck out to me like an equation, and there's different variables,
Mhm.
and the players can impact those variables all along the ways. But there's key locations and key NPCs. They might get there, they might not, but there's something for them to do no matter how they affect the variables.
Mhm.
And if the players just enjoy hunting down vampire bats and they're loving lopping their corrupted heads off one after another, okay, cool, they can do that. But if they want to follow the story through, well, there's some details they need to get to help them get to that outcome.
Mhm.
So flexibility, it's important.
Yep. And to demonstrate some of the variability in the Rake's Codex, my I've run it twice. My first group, they hunted the vampire at night. Took it to Graham Halford, the King of Battens, and essentially, delivered it to him alive so that he could do what he wanted to with the creature.
They did, because
Yep.
in reading it, I was like, how the hell are they going to do this? But players surprise you.
They thought to bring a cart. That's how they did it.
Ingenuity. Love
Because
it.
you pierce the heart of a vampire and it stops, like, it's paralyzed. So they got a very lucky shot with an arrow through the heart, and so paralyzed him, and then they tied him down. They had help. They got Willem, and they got brother Clement to help them, and they delivered it to Halford, and he, like, shot its head off with his revolvers because that's the kind of guy that he is. Uh, and then recently, I've been playing in a game with my dad and then my little sister's boyfriend, and I ran them through Corpse Walk. They hunted the creature during the daytime and found his lair.
Hmm.
They also turned him over to Halford alive because they found him in the daytime. But their run through, they just finished last Sunday. Was the last time we played. They were invited to a summit by Calitrix because they left that loose end. They didn't pursue that loose end, and she
Mm.
decided I want to bring these guys in. I want to see if I can get them on side. They
That-
She was also trying to draw them into the Liminal Temple. They countered with, Meet us at the warm embrace.
Hmm.
And so they kind of laid a trap for her. They sprung it in a very slapdash manner. I'm still writing the play report, so you guys will get to read how this occurred
Sweet.
here in a couple days. But it basically ended with everyone in the room being blinded except for my dad. He was being attacked by my sister's boyfriend because he got mind whammied by Calatrix.
Yep.
But then Willem was able to get to the orb and set it off. So everyone in the room was blind. The vampires were blind, but also feeling the effects of uh, the orb.
Hell yeah.
So they couldn't escape. They were all in bat form trying to escape, but they had disadvantage on the rolls to break away. So they were literally just flying around the walls. And Willem was blind shooting them, and then my dad was also blind shooting them. And so it was literally a slap fight between blind people. And they came out on top. I thought it was going to be over for them, but they came out on top.
That's cool, man. And when you were when I was reviewing the manuscript, and it was talking about Graham Halford will give you this reward if you can bring him in alive, and like I just mentioned, I had no idea how the players would do that. You didn't write how the players could do that, but it's okay in a module to put a challenge, and it's not your job to come up with how everything gets solved. That's
Yep.
the players. One, if they're interested in it, they can figure it out. They will find a way. And it's something as simple as a friggin' cart. That's amazing. And I would have never guessed that. So when you're writing your material, don't fall for the analysis paralysis of, well, there's this optional goal they have. I need to figure out exactly how they can do it. No, just set the goal, move on to the next thing. If it seems like it's even remotely possible for them to achieve it, you're going to be fine. If they want it, they'll get it. And now you just mentioned two parties went and got it.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's really cool, man.
Now, as we're coming up on the end of our time here, I did have an announcement that I wanted to make for everyone. Um, first, before I say this, Stephen, I wanted to thank you for coming on here. This was the exact medicine that I needed. I've been feeling kind of down about like RPGs in general. I've been really struggling writing wise. Um, I stand by everything I say on my Substack, but I think everyone can tell that there's a lot of frustration and anger coming through in some of my articles recently. Again, I stand by the points that I make. You can tell that I'm a little bit irritable these days,
It's
shall we
the
say.
zeitgeist.
Yeah.
We're
But
both in it. Yeah.
this has really kind of energized me into going back to the well. But the thing I wanted to announce is I am not going to be doing the remaster of O Night Divine. I can't tell if it needs no work or if it needs to be completely gutted from the inside out. Um, there are things I've never been happy with about that particular adventure, and I don't know if the solution is to build out more or chop more out. It's one of those things. It's the first thing I ever published, and I'm not happy with it in the state that it's in now. I don't know what needs to be done. I just need to put it on ice and redouble my efforts into expanding volume 1 with the Shadow Dark rule editions, and I'm going to be adding some stuff about starting a Nighthaven campaign that'll go at the beginning of the book, and then volume 2, both of which I want to release in 2026. I'll be doing a double Kickstarter for, both of them. I want to get on top of that effort, and so I'm not going to be releasing O Night Divine this Christmas season. Maybe someday it'll come back as part of a bigger collection. I want to put that idea on ice, and I want to move into actually tackling main Nighthaven stuff, and really getting a jump on bringing this setting fully into Shadow Dark.
Well, I'll see if I can't talk him out of it either online or on this call or afterwards, because I reviewed it, and that's really how we got to working together, because, because you were bold enough to take honest criticism, and some of the gripes I had about the product. But I don't think it's beyond fixing. I don't know that it would take much work. And rather than you stress about it, how about you let me take a look at it and see, is it beyond repair? Are you going to need to do so much internal reconstruction that it won't be worth your time? Or is it really just format this, add a line here, we're done? Because the art was good. The concept itself was good. And even if you're dead set on not revising it, I do ask that you make it available again, because I'm not a fan of people taking their stuff away from the world because, I'm not 100% happy with it. No one's ever 100% happy with like anything they put out. And if you're 100% happy with it when you do put it out, give it a year, then look at it again.
Yeah.
And then see what you think about it. You're like, oh my God, do I even speak or write English? Like you said at the beginning of the show. Because my early stuff, I'm like, oh my God. Let it be available. There's valuable stuff in it. It is cool. Ryan did not pay me to say this. And there's stuff for sale right now that has none of the merits that this module, though flawed, has. And are you really going to let them have uncontested elbow room? Are you going to leave that much of the ring to them? Because even an inferior effort from you, like compared to like Rick's Codex, I think is better than a lot of stuff I've read. And I've read a lot of stuff. So I just ask that you do one of the two, and one of them will be easier than the other. Got it. But that's my piece.
And you, unfortunately, here at the end of the show, you just opened a massive can of worms in my head, because you mentioned stuff like that, and there is no way for me to say this without sounding extremely bitter.
Go for it.
There are works on drive-through RPG right now, and I will name them: Greenhaven, 100% AI art, and probably 85% AI writing. It is an Electrum bestseller.
Oh,
and
you can't do that to yourself, man. You can't do that to yourself.
And I'm sitting there looking at my book that hasn't hit bronze yet, and I'm just like, why? What? Why?
Well, are we still going? I lost the view.
Oh, there we are. Okay, we're back. All right.
Okay, we're back.
Yeah. Sorry, I mentioned Greenhaven, and suddenly my internet gets cancer.
I heard that it's an Electrum bestseller, and you're like, why, God, why? I get it.
Yep. It's just one of those. It's one of those things. And it bothers me. It really bothers me. But
well, think about it this way as well. Yes, there's people who've made millions of dollars in the role-playing game industry and delivered exactly nothing. But do you want to be Matt Colville? Is that what you want to be?
No.
Is that where you want to be when Jesus comes back? A snake oil salesman that just bilks his followers for all that money and gets away with it and delivers exactly nothing. Can you live with yourself like that?
Yeah. What's the status on Draw Steel? Does anyone have it yet?
I just assume that it's never going to happen, because it's not. The Winds of Winter ain't coming, and neither is that. And if you're missing out on Colville's, vaporware RPG, just play 4E. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you got some things to think about. Can I give a few shout outs before we get on out of here?
Absolutely. Shout outs, plugs, whatever you want to do, go for it.
All right. Well, one, I want to thank my man Ryan here because this has been fantastic, and been looking forward to someday getting on and shooting the breeze with you and talking about this important topic of honing your craft, finding an editor, any editor to work with you. And if you can't afford an editor, you can afford a book. It's very inexpensive by Ray Valese, Vallese. He worked a lot with TSR, particularly in the second edition era. It's available on Amazon. It's cheap, PDF, full of good advice. Just read that yourself. It's short, easy. He's a cool guy, still at it in the editing game. Ray Valese, highly recommend him. And I want to give a shout out to my bros in the Inner City Games. That'd be Jeremy Wilson for his soon to be infamous, if not already infamous, module. Let's see, Hookers, Hobos, and Hockey Hooligans, which is his love letter to the city of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Mm-hmm. And I'm calling it 4-H. It was played at North Texas. It's a heck of a lot of fun.
I have signed up for a session of that at Page. So I'll get to play that.
Yeah. And so you're going to get even more improved version of that. And then, of course, Chris Clark, dear friend Chris Clark, who's giving me and Jeremy the opportunity to put out the first modules for this game that we love. It's fast, easy, and we got good stuff. I just recently did one play test of Blackula's Blood Castle. And a second play test coming up in September. Already got great feedback. Things are looking great on it. And let's see. Oh, little indie creator out there. I just gamed with last night by the name of Freezer. He's some guy named Zach that also lives in Florida. But he made from scratch a RPG inspired by the Legacy of Kain games, which if you ever played the video games, you know the lore and the nerding goes deep on that. So I wanted to check it out, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. So this guy might never make $1 off of this game, but he's having a great time running it. Other people are running it. One of his longtime players was in the group with me and another friend of mine, and he's like, man, this is just the best thing ever. I would ditch D&D. I'd ditch whatever else and just play this the rest of my life. What are you in the game for? Mm-hmm. Are you trying to be Matt Colville, or are you trying to have a good game with some friends? That guy is definitely succeeding at having a good game with some friends. So, try not to compare yourself to what the results others have gotten. Yeah. Try to make the best thing that you can make. And that's my advice to folks. Luau Lou of Dandelion Games. Thank him for the opportunity to edit his newest adventure, The Gammatastic Voyage for Root and Crawl Classics. You can still back it. And it's a cross between fighting a kaiju and the movie Inner Space. So you shrink down, go inside and fight a kaiju. My stomach turned. I almost threw up a few times from how accurate his descriptions of a kaiju's innards are. But it's got a good little story to it, and it is some quality action. And I'm not saying that just because he paid me. I would check that out, folks. And I think those are my plugs. And again, appreciate it, Ryan. You're awesome.
Absolutely. Anything by Lou gets a full-throated endorsement from me. I love that guy.
Yeah, and he'll always go, "Oh shucks" to me when I say it, but listen to him when he talks, particularly on when he waxes poetic in his This Old Dungeon with Bill Barsh and Ed Nagy, both cool dudes. I think Lou might low-key be the smartest, most insightful person in the role-playing game industry.
Yeah,
he'll never admit it, but I think he is. Just check him out for yourself if you don't believe me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and of course, I want to give a shout out to the creator of the song that I played during our stream starting screen. That is the one and only Basic Expert. The song is Pilot One. You can find it on his YouTube channel. John does all kinds of great music. He's been doing a lot of Dungeon Wave stuff over there recently. A man of many talents, as they say.
That was a sweet song. I was headbanging as I was waiting to come in. Yeah. That's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, guys, that is going to do it for tonight. I will be back next month. I'm probably gonna start doing these twice a month. I enjoyed the last one. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
Um, we're I don't think we're ever gonna get back to a like weekly show. That was exhausting, but I think I can swing twice a month. So we'll see if I can do this twice a month in September. We'll give it a shot and see how it turns out. Not sure who I'll be talking to or if it'll just be me here by myself. But until then, guys, thank you so much for watching. Stephen, this has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed talking with you this evening, and y'all have a good night.